to tell you about this one night. One night that still messes with my head every time I think about it. You might not believe me, but what happened at that Dollar Tree, it wasn't normal. Trust me. I wasn't expecting anything weird when I showed up for my shift. But after that night, I don't even know how to explain what happened. So let me start from the beginning. It was just a regular Tuesday night, graveyard shift. My name's Jack and I work part-time at Dollar Tree. At night, the store is mostly empty and the quiet is, well, it's creepy, but I'd gotten used to it. I've been working there for a while, so you'd think I'd be fine with the weird noises and flickering lights by now. But that night was different. I clocked in around 10 p.m. Rachel, my coworker, was already there. She was at the registers, which was her usual spot. Mr. James, our manager, was also there, like always. I never had much of a problem with him. He was a bit serious, a little stiff, but he knew how to run the store. Honestly, I think he was just one of those guys who didn't like to talk much, especially after hours. I grabbed my task list from the back room, and Mr. James gave me the usual rundown. Stock aisle 4 with cleaning supplies, keep an eye on the front. Simple stuff, nothing out of the ordinary. Now, if you've ever worked a late night shift, you know how everything slows down. The store gets quieter. The shelves seem to loom over you, and it's easy to feel like you're being watched, even though you know you're the only one in the building. But that night, something felt off from the start. I was in aisle 4 stacking bleach and mops when I noticed something strange. There was a box of mops on the floor, right in the middle of the aisle. The thing was, I definitely didn't knock it over. I was focused on restocking, and the aisle was clear when I started. I thought maybe Rachel or Mr. James had come through earlier, but I hadn't seen anyone. I was just about to pick it up when I heard Rachel call from the front. "Hey Jack, did you knock over the mops in aisle 4? I froze for a second. "No. Why?" "I swear I saw them on the floor earlier," she said. That's when I got a weird feeling. I glanced down the aisle, but nothing seemed out of place. I shrugged it off, though. Maybe I was just tired. Where's Mr. James? It wasn't long after that when I noticed something else. Mr. James hadn't been around for a while. I figured he was in the back office working on the store's paperwork. But when I passed by the office, I didn't see his usual light on. I knocked on the door. No answer. That wasn't like him at all. He was always in there, even if it was just to keep an eye on the security footage. So I figured I'd check the footage myself, just to see what he was up to. And that's when things started to get strange. I pulled up the security camera footage, and I'll be honest with you, I wasn't expecting to see anything weird. But there it was. I rewound the footage to the last time I saw Mr. James. The camera showed him walking into aisle 4 around 11:45 p.m. I thought, okay, normal enough. But then, here's the part that got to me. The footage glitched for just a second, and when it cleared up, he was gone. I don't mean he walked out of the aisle or turned a corner. I mean the guy disappeared. I played it back again. Nothing. Just a blank screen for a second, and then empty aisle. My heart started racing. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How does someone just vanish like that? And why hadn't I heard anything? I called Rachel over. "You've got to see this," I said. She looked at the screen, her face going pale. That's not possible. I couldn't stop thinking about it. If he'd left, why didn't the cameras pick it up? There was no exit down that aisle. The only other way out was through the back storage room, and that door had been locked all night. That's when we noticed it. The storage room door at the back of the store, one that was always locked, was slightly ajar. I hadn't noticed it before. I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to go back there. I had a bad feeling, but something pushed me forward. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was fear. Either way, I felt like we had no choice but to check it out. I told Rachel, "We need to see if Mr. James went in there." She looked at me like I was crazy. "Are you serious? That door's always locked. No one can get in without the key, but I was already moving toward it. The door creaked as I pushed it open, and when I stepped inside, I just felt this weird, cold sensation, like the temperature had dropped suddenly. I'll be honest, I didn't know the store had a basement. I've worked there for months and never once seen that door open. But there it was, a narrow staircase leading down into what seemed like nothing. I looked at Rachel. "You coming?" She didn't say anything. She just nodded and followed me down. At the bottom it smelled musty, old, like this part of the store hadn't been touched in years. And I'll never forget the first thing I saw. A table covered in papers, dust, and a ledger with strange symbols scribbled on it. I didn't know what to make of it, but I felt like we were getting closer to something important. Then, I saw it. Mr. James's name tag lying on the floor. "Why would his name tag be down here?" Rachel asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know, but I'm not feeling good about this," I said. And that's when I heard it. I swear to you, I heard someone whisper my name. At first I thought Rachel had said something, but she looked as confused as I felt. I turned to her. "Did you hear that?" She shook her head. "No, but this place is giving me the creeps." And that's when it happened. I looked back at the shadows in the corner, and I swear, I saw a figure. It wasn't clear, but I knew something was there. Rachel didn't see it. I asked her if she could see the figure, but by the time she looked, it was gone. I didn't want to be down there anymore. But as I turned to leave, I heard another whisper. This time it was clearer. It wasn't just my name. It was a warning. We ran out of that basement, locked the door, and never spoke about it again. When we called the police, they didn't find anything. The basement was empty and the cameras showed nothing unusual. The weird part? Mr. James was never found. He was just gone. The store kept running like nothing happened, and eventually they hired a new manager. But every time I step into that Dollar Tree, I can't shake the feeling that something's watching me. So, here's the question for you. Have you ever had a moment where you felt like something was off, but you just couldn't explain it? Ever worked late somewhere and had that nagging feeling that you weren't alone? I'm still trying to figure out what really happened. Maybe one day I'll have an answer. Or maybe I'll just be left wondering, just like you. Let me know what you think. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? I walked into the store that night, tired from a long week of work and bills piling up. Dollar Tree was a typical place, small, quiet, with mostly late-night shoppers who came in to grab a few last-minute items. I was used to working the night shifts, usually starting around 10 p.m., closing the store at 2 a.m. But tonight felt different. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something about the air felt off. It was an average evening as I clocked in. The store was nearly empty, aside from a few customers wandering the aisles picking up random things. I grabbed my apron, tied it around my waist, and took a quick glance around. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly, casting a dull glow over everything. The shelves were stocked, but they still needed some tidying up. I remember that night clearly, because it was the first time I noticed how quiet it was. Normally, there'd be some noise. The whir of the freezer section, the beep of the self-checkout, and the occasional chatter from customers. But that night, the only sound was the soft hum of the air conditioning. I started in aisle 4, organizing canned goods. As I began stacking the cans, I heard footsteps behind me. At first, I didn't think much of it. It was a typical sound in a store. But then they started getting closer, slower, more deliberate. I looked over my shoulder, but no one was there. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I thought maybe it was just the wind or the sound echoing through the store, but it didn't feel like that. The footsteps were too distinct, too purposeful. I froze for a moment, trying to reassure myself that it was nothing, but then I heard it again. I turned around quickly, but this time I saw nothing. No one was there. I shook my head, trying to shake off the strange feeling. It had to be my imagination. Maybe I was just overtired. Still, the unease lingered. After a few minutes, I decided to head to the back of the store to grab some cleaning supplies. As I walked toward the aisles near the stockroom, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A shopping cart was sitting at the far end of the aisle, but I could swear it wasn't there a minute ago. I glanced at it for a moment, a strange feeling crawling up my spine. It was empty, but its presence felt wrong. No one had been in the aisle when I passed by, and no one was near it now. I hesitated for a moment, my feet frozen to the ground. Something about the cart seemed off. I walked past it quickly, glancing down the aisle to make sure no one was there. But there was still that odd feeling like someone was watching me. I couldn't shake it. I headed toward the back to grab the cleaning supplies, but that's when I saw him. The man. He was standing near the end of the aisle, his face partially hidden in the shadows. He didn't move. He just stood there watching me. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't recognize him. I had worked at Dollar Tree for months now, and I knew most of the regular customers, but I had never seen this guy before. I stood there, frozen. My mind raced. Was this guy a new customer? Why was he just standing there, not moving, staring at me? I couldn't help but feel a knot form in my stomach. I tried to be polite, even though my voice trembled. "Can I help you?" I asked, forcing myself to sound casual, though my heart was racing in my chest. The man didn't answer. He just stood there, his face in the shadows, his eyes fixed on me. I took a step back, my body instinctively moving toward the exit. My breath quickened, and I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. "Can I help you find something?" I repeated, trying to remain calm, but there was no response. At this point, I started to feel uneasy. I should have called for help, but I didn't. There was something about his presence that kept me rooted to the spot, unable to move. "Hello?" I asked again. This time I raised my voice, but it felt weak. The man didn't budge. I quickly turned and walked away, my heart hammering in my chest. But as I rounded the corner of the aisle, I heard footsteps again. Slow, steady, behind me. I couldn't stop myself from walking faster, my mind racing. The man was following me. I didn't dare turn around. I knew I had to get to the break room, lock the door, and figure out what to do. But as I approached the back of the store, the footsteps behind me didn't stop. They followed me. Closer, closer. I glanced over my shoulder just for a split second, and my heart nearly stopped. The man was right there, just a few feet behind me, walking slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. He wasn't running, but his deliberate steps made it feel like he was closing in on me with every second. I reached for my phone in my pocket, but before I could even unlock it, I heard a voice. Not from the man, but from somewhere else, somewhere deep in my mind. "Get out." It was like a warning. A voice that wasn't my own, but felt familiar. I didn't question it. I didn't stop to think about it. I just ran. I rushed toward the break room, but the door was locked. Of course it was locked. I knew I should have had a key, but I hadn't thought about it. Panic flooded my chest. I turned around, but the man was there, standing in front of me now, blocking my way. I didn't know what to do. "Who are you?" I gasped, my voice trembling. He didn't speak. He just pointed toward the back of the store, toward the exit. The man's finger was outstretched, pointing toward the employee exit. I didn't understand. I didn't know why he was there or what he wanted. But something in me told me that if I didn't leave now, I wouldn't be safe. I turned and ran, as fast as I could, toward the back exit. The man didn't follow me. I didn't look back. I didn't dare to. I didn't go back to that Dollar Tree after that night. I couldn't. The unease never left me. The footsteps, the cart, the man. All of it felt too real. I told my manager what happened, but he didn't believe me. Nobody did. They said it was just a weird night, that maybe I had imagined things. But I know what I saw. I'll never forget the man in the dark aisle watching me. I'll never forget the cold feeling in the air, the sense of something being wrong. And I'll never forget the way he pointed toward the exit, as if he knew that was the only way out. I had worked at the Dollar Tree for nearly 3 years, long enough to become comfortable in its quiet, sometimes eerie stillness. People always said it was the kind of job where you could zone out and just do your work. But the truth was, it wasn't as simple as that. There was always something in the air at night, something I couldn't shake. Maybe it was the flickering lights, or the way the aisles seemed to stretch endlessly, but I always felt like I wasn't truly alone. It was a regular Thursday night when things took a turn. I was on the late shift, the kind of shift where the store was nearly empty, and it was just me and the few night shoppers drifting down the aisles. I'd worked these hours enough to know the rhythm of the store, but that night I noticed something strange. It started with the noise. At first I thought I was just tired. The soft tapping on the tiles, like shoes shuffling in the distance, had me glancing over my shoulder. No one, just empty aisles. But the sound came again. I hesitated for a moment, then shook it off. The store was quiet. Too quiet. The hum of the freezers in the back, the occasional rattle of shopping carts in the parking lot, and the faint air conditioning were the only sounds that should have filled the space. But then, the tapping began to get louder and closer. I tried to ignore it, but as I continued to work, it became clear the sound wasn't going away. It was like someone was walking right behind me, breathing down my neck. My heart raced, and my hands felt clammy. I knew no one was supposed to be there. My coworker had gone home hours ago. I looked up from my register, and that's when I saw it. A figure, tall, shadowed, indistinct, stood at the far end of the aisle. I couldn't make out any details, but I felt its presence as if it was pulling me in. A cold chill ran down my spine. I wasn't imagining it. I blinked, and in that moment, it was gone. I thought maybe I had just been seeing things. Maybe I was too tired. But as the night dragged on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The tapping came again. Only this time it was different. It was more deliberate, almost like a warning. A subtle voice echoed in my mind. Don't look back. But of course I did. Standing in the aisle directly behind me was the figure again. This time it was closer, so much closer. I could almost make out its features, its long, pale fingers, its hollow eyes. My blood ran cold, and I froze. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. The store felt suffocating. The shadows seemed to shift and move around me, closing in. It was like the very walls were alive, breathing. Suddenly the lights flickered, and then everything went dark. I stood there, heart pounding, breath shallow, trying to adjust to the pitch-black surroundings. The silence was deafening, and I could feel the presence of the figure drawing near, even though I couldn't see it. And then I heard a whisper. "You're not leaving." A cold wave of terror washed over me, and instinctively I reached for my phone. But it wasn't there. I panicked. I searched every pocket, my hands shaking uncontrollably until I realized it had slipped from my pocket and was nowhere in sight. The whisper came again, louder this time. "You belong to the store now." I could feel the air grow heavier as I backed up toward the entrance. But every step I took, the aisles seemed to stretch further. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't reach the exit. The store was playing with me. I was trapped in its labyrinth. Just as I thought I couldn't take it anymore, the lights came back on. But the store, it wasn't the same. The shelves, the aisles, the signs, it was all twisted, warped. The store had become a maze. I wasn't sure which way was out anymore. I turned around to find the figure again, but this time it wasn't alone. Shadows moved in every direction, closing in on me, the floor beneath me sinking with each step I took. I was surrounded. I couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in, and the whispers echoed in my mind. This is where you belong. As I stood in the middle of the store, my heart pounded in my chest, but it wasn't just fear, it was confusion. Everything around me seemed wrong. The aisles felt like they had stretched and twisted, somehow elongating, and the shelves now loomed high, too tall for a regular Dollar Tree. The low hum of the refrigerators, the buzzing fluorescent lights overhead, everything seemed amplified in this strange version of the store. It wasn't just the building that felt different. I felt different too, as if something inside me had changed. I was no longer just the girl working the night shift, mindlessly stocking shelves and waiting for time to pass. Now, I was part of whatever this was, and I wasn't sure if I was just imagining it or if I was truly trapped in some nightmarish alternate reality. I forced myself to walk toward the back of the store, my steps slow, as if I was in a trance. Every aisle seemed to hold a different version of reality. There was one aisle that seemed to stretch on endlessly, a place I knew I had never walked down before. It was filled with items I had never seen, strange dolls with eyes that followed me as I moved, old picture frames covered in dust, and books whose covers were unreadable. I could hear it again, that sound, the tapping. It had gotten louder, more insistent, and this time it was coming from behind me. I wanted to turn around, but something inside me warned me not to. A voice echoed in my mind, "Don't look back. Don't you dare." But I couldn't help it. I turned, and there it was. Standing just a few feet away, the figure was more distinct now. Its skin was ashen, eyes hollow, and there was an eerie, unnatural glow to its presence. It didn't move, yet it felt as if it was closing in, inching toward me with each breath I took. I froze, my body trembling, but my feet wouldn't move. My mind screamed for me to run, but my body betrayed me, locking me in place. The whisper came again, louder this time, more commanding. "You're not leaving. This is where you belong now." The voice was cold, as though it wasn't coming from the figure, but from the very walls around me, reverberating through the aisles like a warning. I tried to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. My chest tightened as though the air was being sucked from the room, and I felt a strange sensation in my stomach, like something dark and heavy was taking root inside me. The longer I stared at the figure, the more I could see. Its hands were long and twisted, the fingers clawed and unnatural. I felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if every inch of me was being pulled toward it. I stumbled back, turning to run, but the aisles had shifted. The store that I had once known had become an endless maze. Each turn led me further into darkness. I reached for my phone again, but it wasn't in my pocket. My heart sank as I realized it had vanished. Panic surged within me, and I couldn't tell whether I was truly trapped or if I was losing my mind. I continued to run, but no matter how fast I moved, I couldn't find the exit. The fluorescent lights flickered above me, casting eerie shadows on the floor. And then I heard it again, the tapping. Closer this time. So close, in fact, that it felt like someone was breathing down my neck. I whipped around, expecting to see the figure, but instead I saw only shadows. Was I alone? It was then that I noticed something I hadn't before. The other shoppers. They were all standing still, frozen in place. Their eyes were hollow, just like the figures, their mouths slightly ajar, and they stared at me with an unsettling, vacant gaze. I tried to move, but the air felt heavier now. It was suffocating, thick with the weight of something oppressive. The store was no longer just a place of aisles and shelves. It had become something far worse, alive, breathing, watching. And then, I heard it, the whisper again, now directly in my ear. "You're part of it now. You can't leave." I turned around to face the voice, but no one was there. There was only the store and the feeling that I was no longer just a person, but a part of something larger, something dark. Working the night shift at Dollar Tree isn't exactly thrilling, but I've grown used to it. The store feels almost like a second home now, with its quiet aisles and the familiar hum of the fluorescent lights. Most nights are uneventful, restocking shelves, helping the occasional late-night customer, and chatting with my co-worker Lisa if she's around. But things changed when he started showing up. It was about 3 months ago. He wasn't like the usual customers who came in looking for last-minute party supplies or cheap snacks. This man, middle-aged, wearing a beige jacket, didn't seem interested in buying anything. He'd walk in, scan the aisles, and leave without a word. At first, I thought he might be homeless or looking for something specific he couldn't find, but he came back, every night. At first, I didn't think much of it. People have their quirks, and some just like to browse. But there was something off about him. He moved with a slow, deliberate rhythm like he wasn't really present. And no matter what, he always ended up in aisle 3. One night, I was restocking cleaning supplies when I saw him again, standing perfectly still in aisle 3. He was staring at the sponges, not touching them, just staring. It went on for so long that I started to feel uncomfortable. "Can I help you find something?" I asked, my voice steady but polite. He turned his head slightly, but he didn't look at me. "I just need to find something," he said, so quietly that I barely heard him. Before I could ask anything else, he turned and walked out of the store. The next day, curiosity got the better of me. I decided to check the security footage to see if he'd done anything unusual. The cameras weren't the best quality, but I could see him walking in, going straight to aisle 3, and standing there for several minutes before leaving. What caught my attention, though, was the way the footage glitched every time he moved. The screen would flicker, freezing for a second before resuming. When he walked out of the store, the camera froze completely, and when it started again, he was gone. I played the footage back 3 more times, but it didn't change. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the man and the glitches. It felt like there was a connection, something I was missing. During my shift, I kept a close eye on aisle 3. At one point, I noticed a sponge lying on the floor. It was strange because I'd just cleaned that aisle, and I was certain it hadn't been there before. When I picked it up, a chill ran through me. It wasn't cold or wet, but something about it felt wrong. I quickly placed it back on the shelf and moved on, trying to shake the feeling. The next day, I casually mentioned the man to Lisa while we were organizing stock. "You mean the guy in the beige jacket?" she said, her tone uneasy. "Yeah, I've seen him a few times. He's weird. Never buys anything, just stands there." I nodded. "Has he always been around?" Lisa hesitated. "Not always, but there was someone else who reminded me of him. A guy named Jay Marsh. He used to work here before you started. Nice guy, but one day he just stopped showing up. Management said he probably quit, but no one ever heard from him again." "What happened before he disappeared?" I asked. Lisa glanced toward aisle 3 and lowered her voice. "He spent a lot of time over there in that aisle, almost like he was obsessed with it. That night, I decided to dig around in the back room to see if Jay Marsh had left anything behind. After searching through piles of old paperwork and dusty boxes, I found a small, worn notebook tucked behind a shelf. The pages were filled with frantic handwriting, some of it barely legible. The same sentence appeared over and over again. "He's searching for what's gone. Don't follow him." I felt a chill run down my spine as I read it. The next night, I found myself drawn to aisle 3 again. Running my hand along the wall behind the shelves, I noticed a slight gap between 2 panels. Pushing against it, I felt the wall shift, revealing a narrow passage. I hesitated, my heart pounding, but curiosity won. I stepped inside. The passage led to a small, dark room no bigger than a closet. Inside, there were dusty shelves, a chair, and a single hanging light bulb. On one of the shelves, I found another notebook. The handwriting matched the first, but this one was more detailed. It described sightings of a man in a beige jacket, his repeated visits to aisle 3, and his obsession with finding something. One sentence stood out. He's not just looking for something, he's looking for someone. A few nights later, I saw him again. He was in aisle 3, staring at the same shelf. This time, I decided to confront him. "What are you looking for?" I asked, my voice firm. He turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "It's not here anymore," he said quietly. "Why do you keep coming back?" I pressed. He didn't answer. Instead, he turned and walked toward the exit. Against my better judgment, I followed him. As he reached the door, he stopped and looked back at me. His eyes were filled with a strange sadness. "You shouldn't have followed me," he said. And then, just like on the footage, he was gone. After that night, I never saw him again. The store felt different, quieter, like a weight had been lifted. One evening, while cleaning the back room, I found a folded piece of paper tucked between some boxes. It wasn't dusty, as if someone had placed it there recently. The note read, "Thank you. I found what I lost." I stood there for a long time, staring at the words. Life at Dollar Tree eventually returned to normal. Lisa and I stopped talking about the man, though we both avoided aisle 3 unless absolutely necessary. Every now and then, I feel a faint chill when I pass that spot, like a shadow brushing against me. I don't know who or what he was, but some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Lena and Ethan, a young couple, move into a charming apartment in an old building, excited for a fresh start. They talk about their dreams of starting a family, and Lena shares her excitement about their new life in this space. Yet there's an odd, unexplainable tension. As they begin unpacking, Lena feels an eerie sense of being watched. The apartment is old, but it's still clean, with beautiful light pouring in through the windows. Lena mentions how strange it feels, but Ethan dismisses it as just nerves after the move. Lena gets a vague sense of déjà vu when they reach the living room, but she pushes it aside. That night, as Lena lies in bed, she hears faint tapping sounds from the hallway. At first, she thinks it's the house settling or a noise from outside, but the tapping continues and grows louder. She becomes uneasy and wakes Ethan, but he brushes it off, telling her it's just the house. The strange noises continue, and Lena spends the rest of the night feeling uneasy. The next morning, she can't shake the feeling that something is wrong in the apartment. The sun is up, but the air still feels heavy. Lena starts having vivid dreams about a woman named Clara. In these dreams, Clara appears pale, gaunt, and always watching her from a distance. She's standing at the end of a long, narrow hallway, and she whispers Lena's name, telling her she needs to leave. Every time Lena tries to run, she can't escape. The dreams grow more frequent, and Lena wakes up feeling disturbed but unsure if the dreams are a product of her stress from the move or something more sinister. One morning, she finds strange marks on her neck, though she can't remember how they got there. Ethan is still oblivious, and the couple goes about their day, but Lena's feeling of being watched only grows stronger. Lena begins researching the building's history. She finds old records detailing the abandoned hospital that once stood on the land. The hospital was infamous for the mistreatment of pregnant women under the care of a nurse named Clara, who had been accused of performing cruel and unorthodox experiments. She discovers that Clara was involved in the deaths of several women, and many believed she had a connection to a series of stillbirths. Lena is horrified by the details, but can't help but feel an eerie connection to the story. She feels Clara's presence in the apartment even more strongly after this revelation, and the dreams intensify. She shares her findings with Ethan, who brushes it off as superstition, but Lena feels she is running out of time. The supernatural occurrences in the apartment escalate. Objects start moving on their own, books falling off shelves, doors creaking open at night. Lena feels colder and colder, no matter how high she turns up the heat. She begins to hear whispers in the apartment when no one else is around, calling her name softly, and sometimes they grow louder, almost pleading. The tapping returns, louder than ever, and Lena feels a constant presence following her. One night, Lena finds herself standing in the hallway in a trance-like state, unsure of how she got there. When she wakes up, she's shaken and begins questioning her own sanity. The tension between Lena and Ethan grows as he starts to worry about her mental state. Lena confronts Ethan about the haunting, demanding to know why he's been so dismissive of everything that's happening. He finally admits that he knows about Clara and the history of the building. He had hoped to keep it from Lena to avoid worrying her, but he admits to hearing the whispers too. He confesses that he's been afraid of what's happening, unsure of how to explain it to her. He insists that they can't leave because he's already invested so much in the apartment and their future. Lena feels betrayed, and she realizes that Ethan's secrets may be tied to the supernatural forces they're dealing with. One night, Lena confronts Clara in her dreams. Clara finally speaks directly to her, telling her that she needs to leave because the child Lena carries is hers. Clara claims the child is meant to replace the one she lost many years ago. The scene feels more real than any of the other dreams. Clara's eyes are hollow, and her skin is cold, almost lifeless. Lena wakes up screaming, and the world around her seems to tremble. The tension in the apartment reaches its breaking point. Lena refuses to let Clara take her baby. The couple debates leaving, but Lena insists they need to confront the spirit once and for all. Lena and Ethan prepare for the final confrontation with Clara. The apartment shakes violently as the supernatural forces come to a head. Clara's ghostly form manifests in the living room, her eyes wild with fury. Lena stands firm, refusing to hand over her child despite the fear creeping up her spine. The atmosphere grows colder and the lights flicker wildly as Clara attacks, trying to possess Lena. But Lena fights back, using the knowledge she's learned from the history of Clara's cruelty. In a moment of intense focus, Lena reaches out to Clara and tells her that she will not let the cycle of pain continue. Clara's ghost seems to dissipate, screaming in anguish, and the apartment falls silent. With Clara gone, the apartment returns to a strange sense of calm. The whispers stop, and the heavy atmosphere lifts. Lena and Ethan, though exhausted, believe the haunting is over. However, as Lena touches her pregnant belly, she feels a sudden chill run through her body. She looks down and sees a faint shadow in the corner of the room, Clara's pale, haunting face reflected in the window. The realization hits Lena like a wave. The haunting may never truly be over. The spirit of Clara could return, and the child Lena carries may be more connected to the past than she ever feared. As the camera pans out, the sound of distant whispers fills the air, leaving the audience questioning what's real and what's not.